The new Honda Hornet 2.0 is a 180cc motorcycle that's priced about on par with 200cc bikes like this, the Bajaj Pulsar NS200 and the TVS Apache RTR 200. Now, we really liked this bike when we first rode it, but today we're going to answer the question about whether this little motorcycle is punching above its weight or if it's just another case of optimistic pricing from Honda India. Now, these bikes might be priced almost on par, but there are some significant mechanical differences between them, particularly in the engines. There are three very different approaches taken to the engines here. The Honda takes the simple route. This is just a 2-valve air-cooled engine that makes a little above 17 horsepower. And then we move to the TVS. We've now got a 4-valve head, an oil cooler, and this engine is making a little under 21 horsepower. The Bajaj, on the other hand, is the sportiest and the most modern of the lot in terms of technology. It's a 4-valve head, liquid cooling, it's got a 6-speed gearbox, and it makes 24.5 horsepower. Unsurprisingly, this is the fastest accelerating bike here. The Honda is the slowest. But hold on, because there's a whole lot more that you need to know about how these engines feel in the real world. The difference in performance isn't as big as the power figures would suggest, and that's largely down to the Hornet's weight advantage. The Honda is 10 kilos lighter than the RTR and 14 kilos lower than the NS. Factor in its short gearing, and the Honda feels enjoyably responsive at lower speeds. In fact, with its nimble chassis, tractable engine, and eager acceleration, this was the bike we enjoyed riding the most within the city. Where the Honda Hornet doesn't really enjoy being revved all the way to the red line, that's pretty much all the NS wants to do. The KTM genes within this Bajaj engine are clearly visible in the way that it saves its power for the top end. If you rev it out, the Bajaj is the quickest bike here. But that also comes at the expense of a weak bottom end. Now, the engine won't stall at low speeds in higher gears, but you will have to downshift more often for quick acceleration. Out on the highway, the NS is the most comfortable holding triple-digit speeds, followed by the RTR, while the Hornet starts to really struggle above 110 kph. In pure performance terms, the RTR once again occupies the middle ground. It has better mid-range and tractability than the NS, and better top-end performance than the Hornet, but it doesn't come out on top in either factor. Where the RTR is undoubtedly the best is when it comes to refinement and the exhaust sound. It has the smoothest feeling engine, and the exhaust produces a pleasingly deep and engaging note. The NS also makes an interesting sound at higher revs, but overall, this engine feels the most brash and buzzy here. As for the Hornet, its refinement is good until you rev it up to the red line. But the note from its exhaust is pretty anonymous, and it sounds like just another commuter motorcycle. Performance is one thing, but even in the 200cc class, customers really value fuel efficiency. And that holds especially true given how much we're being forced to pay for the stuff these days. As you'd expect, the tables turn when it comes to fuel efficiency. In our tests, the Hornet is the most efficient, the RTR comes in a distant second, and the NS doesn't return above 40 kpl in either the city or out on the highway. It's not just fuel efficiency that's important. If you think about it, 200cc customers typically want everything from their motorcycles. So it's got to be fuel efficient, it needs to be great in terms of performance, but comfort and practicality are also very important. In terms of suspension comfort, the RTR is noticeably more plush than the other two, with the Honda probably being the firmest here. That being said, they're all fairly comfortable, and even the Honda never feels too stiff or harsh. It just won't soak up broken stretches with the same level of ease as the RTR. But that's only half the story, and the riding positions are worth talking about as well. The NS is the biggest and most spacious bike here, and it has the tallest seat as well. The Hornet is a physically smaller motorcycle, but even tall riders will find themselves reasonably comfortable on this machine. While all three bikes have fairly comfortable and upright upper body positions, the lower body ergos on the RTR are quite tight. Shorter riders probably won't mind as much, but for someone tall, the RTR's foot pegs can get painful after a long day of riding. As for pillion comfort, all three are decent. but Rishabh found the Hornet to be the least spacious.
The positive side of these highly placed foot pegs on the RTR shows up in the handling department. Now don't get me wrong, all three of these bikes are fun and engaging handlers, but in a really twisty road or on a racetrack, the RTR is a cut above.
The RTR comes alive the moment you feel like attacking a winding road. Its balance between quick responses and stability keeps it engaging but also planted and confident. The TVS Eurogrip tires are impressive, and when you factor in the power and generous lean angles available, the RTR is great fun. It also has the nicest brakes here, which is saying something because the RTR 200 always had rather wooden feeling brakes, but TVS seems to have addressed that in this latest update. The Hornet, well, it comes quite close to the RTR, especially in terms of sheer chassis capability. It also has an exciting willingness to dive into a corner with great feel coming off the front end. The first Hornet we rode last year had Maxxis tires, but the one we're riding now is on MRF Nylogrip Zappers, which are also on the Pulsar, and they perform perfectly well enough. What ultimately lets the Hornet down is its engine's inability to serve up 200cc levels of enthusiasm and pace when you really wring it out. The brakes also feel slightly dull in this company. Of the three, the Bajaj NS200 feels like it has the most sporty potential in its chassis and engine. Unfortunately, the main stand scrapes the road when you lean it all the way over, especially if you've got a pillion on board. We also found that the monoshock at the back feels quite soft when you really push hard, and this also nibbles away at the confidence that the rider feels.
So we've covered performance, efficiency, comfort and practicality, but there's still another thing we need to discuss, and that's features and value for money.
Unsurprisingly, the oldest bike here is the least equipped. The Pulsar definitely has the most exciting mechanical specifications, but it's the only one here with things like a halogen headlamp. Its instrument console also looks quite dated, and it lacks a trip computer or a gear position indicator. On the upside, the Pulsar's analog rev counter may be from an earlier time, but it's still a joy to have. This is also the only bike here that has a side stand down engine kill switch. The Honda Hornet fares a bit better with LED lighting all around, and it's the only one with hazard lights. Apart from that, it would appear that Honda chose to focus on the USD fork, and the Hornet doesn't really have any other standout features. Like the Pulsar, this bike is only available with single channel ABS. As for the RTR 200, well, it thoroughly thrashes the other two when it comes to the sheer amount of kit you get. In typical TVS fashion, its dashboard gives you a heap of information, including 0 to 60 kph and lap timers. Then there's the riding modes that offer two different power levels. The lower powered urban mode returns slightly better fuel efficiency, but to be honest, with just 20 horsepower, sport mode is all you need. Nevertheless, aside from the power changes, these modes also change the level of sensitivity for the ABS system. And speaking of, the RTR is the only one here available with dual channel ABS. Another party trick is the RTR's Bluetooth connectivity, which unlocks a bunch of features including call alerts, turn-by-turn navigation assists, and motorcycle telemetry data. Once you consider the radial rear tire, the preload adjustable front fork, the adjustable levers, and the slipper clutch, it becomes clear that the RTR 200 doesn't just offer great features for the segment, but it does so even compared with bikes that cost much more. You can also have the RTR 200 with all these features, but in a single channel ABS variant for about 5,000 rupees less if you like. Now to wrap things up, let's begin with the NS. Its age is evident in this company, and while it's still a good looking bike after all these years, this particular paint scheme we have here will polarize opinions. The Pulsar's performance is strong on paper, but you need to rev it out to access all of it. And as a result, this bike is not as effortless a daily commuter as the other two. But if you like a revvy and sporty engine and flat out performance is your top priority, well, the NS remains your best option at this price point. As for the Hornet 2.0, Well, it comes across as a bit of a surprise, and it actually managed to hold up against these two bikes better than some might expect.
Honestly, I'm still impressed with the Hornet 2.0, even after riding it against these two. I think it's the nicest bike in the city, it's very fuel efficient, and most of all, it has a sense of sportiness and character that was sorely missing in small capacity Hondas before this. But if you look at the overall picture, there is still no escaping the fact that Honda is giving you less performance and notably fewer features for about the same money. If this bike was 5,000 or 7,000 rupees cheaper, it would have been a different story. But as things stand, the RTR 200 remains the king of the 200cc segment. Unlike Bajaj, TVS has continually updated this product and it now packs a big feature set, much more than the other two. But it goes much deeper than that. This bike has the smoothest engine. It's a great handler. It has decent performance. It's a good city bike. Most of all though, it manages to put a big smile on your face. It is the best all-rounder here.